Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Lenz VO Podcast. My name is Mike Lenz. I'm an entrepreneur and a full-time professional voice actor and audiobook narrator. My goal is to share with you stories from some of the most amazing and inspiring people from all areas of the voiceover industry to help you achieve your dream of becoming a professional voice actor. So please leave me a review over on iTunes and join us over on the web at mikelenzvopodcast.com to be notified of each episode when it comes out. Now, get ready to be inspired. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Mike Lenz VO Podcast. Now, before we get into the show, I want to share a great discount from Voice123. In the show notes, I'll have a link for a 15% discount on a new Voice123 membership at the $395 level and up. I've had a lot of success on the Voice123 casting platform, and I have an affiliate partnership with them to provide this incredible discount to my podcast listeners. So that discount can be found in the show notes, so be sure you check it out. All right, on today's episode, my guest is Donovan Corneetz. With many years of professional voiceover experience, Donovan is probably best known for his promo work on the Today Show. His body of work is really too extensive for me to list here, and I know we'll get into it as we talk. But Donovan provides voiceover for commercial, promo, narration, e-learning, trailer, radio imaging, video games, and a whole lot more. So, Donovan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Love the intro. Glad to be here, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And, you know, as we talked about before I hit record, I love to hear, and I know my listeners love to hear other voice actors' journeys into this incredible industry. And, you know, I've done over 140 interviews, and nobody's journey is the same, which is pretty fascinating. You know, we've all been down this path, but the nice thing is we can learn from one another from those journeys that we've all had. So why don't we start by just having you share with the listeners your journey? How did you get into this industry?
Yeah. Well, cool. Again, thanks for having me. This is a really cool opportunity to speak with you, Mike. So, but yeah, my journey. So I guarantee you no one else's journey was exactly like mine, as you alluded to. So it started for me in around 2004. I had gone back to college, and when I went back to school, rewind a little bit further. When I first transferred to NC State University, go Wolfpack, I had been hearing about the old, oh, you got a great voice. You should do radio. Have you ever thought about radio? You got a great voice. You should do radio. And I was in school to be a chiropractor. That was what I wanted to do. That was my dream, was to be a chiropractor. I had done 2 summers of interning at a chiropractor's office, learning how to develop x-rays and exams, all the whole thing. And so I transferred to NC State as a bio major. And I discovered they had a very popular, very powerful student radio station, WKNC. And so I said, you know what? People have been talking to me about radio my whole life. Let me at least, I'm already here. They're already getting my tuition, so I might as well check it out. So I went, and it just so happened I shared an elevator with a guy who had his own hip hop show on Saturday nights. And we kind of chopped it up on the elevator, and I ended up being his co-host for his hip hop show. And for the show prep, we would do these spoof commercials, like silly club commercials and furniture that didn't make sense and all kinds of goofy stuff. But I was like, this is kind of cool, like being behind the mic, behind the scenes, producing, in addition to the on-air aspect. So I started to really think about it, like, this seems like fun. And then I had a professor in college, Vance Elderkin, shout out to Vance Elderkin, who talked about doing voiceover on the side. He kind of casually brought it up. And I said, well, you know, I've been kind of doing stuff at the radio station. Like, can you tell me some more about this? And not to make this too long of a story, but he's like, you know, do you have a demo? And I'm like, what's a demo? I had no idea. And so I basically put together what I thought a demo should be, because he said, is it an example of your work? And I'm like, well, I don't have any work, so I'll just do an example of what I can do. To tell you how much I didn't know about voiceover, what a demo was, my demo was 3 full 60-second long spots. Like, so I had a 3-minute long commercial demo. absolutely terrible. I recorded it in my then girlfriend, now wife, in her bathroom because I thought the acoustics sounded cool. And so and I did the music and everything myself. And he listened to it and said, "This is the worst demo I've ever heard." And I said, "Okay." He said, "But it's not that you necessarily are terrible or have no talent. You just don't know what the hell you're doing. And if you're serious, these are the steps you need to take in order to kind of boost it." So that's how I kind of learned about it. And I started off by doing VO. I tell this story a lot. I literally was sitting on a dorm toilet, like in my bathroom, with a TV dinner table and a microphone that I got at Radio Shack, with a little on-off switch, with a cord going out to my computer. And that's what I was doing VO for different clubs and things on university for free, obviously. And that's how I started, literally sitting on the toilet, because that was the only isolated place I had to record. Um, Fast forward to graduating, I worked at a radio station, as a traffic producer. So I would actually take calls from people about traffic conditions and then give them to the on-air traffic reporters. And in that space, being in that arena, I would sometimes fill in for them, and I got a chance to like actually talk about the traffic. And I started doing some VO for free again for different vendors and stuff. I had no idea. And then in 2005, after graduating, thanks to it was Voice 123, early days, 2005, I booked my first ever paid VO gig, and it was a video game called Head Coach, and I played assistant coach, and they paid me $100 for an
Yes.
18
You
page
got paid.
script.
You got paid. You're a
I
professional
got
now.
paid, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh man, 18 pages. But at that time, literally, I still have a copy of the check to this day. And I did like a photo shoot holding it up. I couldn't believe somebody paid me to talk. And so that was my first thing of like, all right, I don't know how this is going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but this is what I'm going to do to make a living. I don't know how, when, what, but this is it. There's nothing like this. Went back to school, changed my major, no longer biology, it was media communication, much to my mother's chagrin. But anyway, so that's kind of how I got into VO, as a whole. And of course, tons of events over the course of 2005 till today to kind of get me where I am now.
Yeah, I want to kind of want to fill in those blanks as we go along, but
Sure.
sticking with the college for a while. It's interesting that because so many of my colleagues, our colleagues, I should say, and even myself included, we come from other careers, right? We've done other
Right.
things for a while, and then we kind of morph into or literally make in my case, a dramatic change to go into the voiceover world. But you kind of found that early on in your college years, which is a little different than from other people that I've heard.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. I was going to ask you, did you graduate with that degree to move into chiropractic to sort of get that safe job? But you didn't do that. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to go into this because you were all in.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that process that you went through because you said, your mom wasn't too happy about that.
No. Yeah. She thought she was going to have a doctor.
Yeah, sure, sure. I mean, you were so convinced that you wanted to do this, you were willing to change your college degree for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it really was a thing where um, I just found myself feeling something I had not felt before. Now, granted, when I discovered this, I was 24 years old. So it's not like I was a teenager or a kid or anything, but still young. And I don't know. I just started to realize when I was in class for like physics and chemistry and all of these things, advanced biology, I just didn't care anymore. And I realized like my heart wasn't in it. And I just couldn't wait to get back to practicing on a microphone. And I I don't know how else to put it, but I wanted no part of a career that I wasn't going to enjoy. Right. And I knew, yes, safe job, great money, the whole thing, the prestige of being a doctor and all that. I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to do something I loved. And I loved this like nothing else I had experienced before. And so when I made the change, again, like I said, a few people were not happy about it. We've been paying for what? But when I went back and I changed my I mean, I went so far as to like falling out of love with the process that I dropped out of school in the summer of 2001, and I went back spring of '03. Yeah, spring of '03, finished '05. And by that time I was into like music and performing and all of these other things. It's a whole other side of this. We could talk about some other time. But yeah, like wanting to be a hip hop artist and all that stuff. And that's when I discovered VO. And I don't know, it just became, I don't want there to be a safety net. I didn't want to have the fallback safe option. I didn't want it because I felt like if I had a safety net, I wouldn't go for it as hard. And when you talk about other jobs, now don't get me wrong, straight out, obviously I couldn't do it full time. So I'll never forget, I made $500 exactly my very first year doing, like in a year, doing VO. Clearly you cannot sustain a living on that. But I worked in that radio station a little bit after I graduated. Then I sold luggage. I was an assistant manager in a luggage store. Um, I worked at a Best Buy for a little bit in the car audio department. I did technical support for a statewide kind of procurement thing in North Carolina. And then I did a third shift job doing tech support for Asia. For the Asia market for a really big telecom company. And I did that so that I could pursue VO during the day. So for a little over a year, I worked from 11 at night to 7 in the morning, Sunday through Thursday. And I would sleep for about 2.5 hours. Then I would do my VO stuff and the emails and my printed out CDs.
Yeah, I
And like
remember those. Yep.
actually, yeah,
Yep.
my printed out CDs and actually hand delivering them to production studios in the Raleigh Durham area. All of that good stuff. Then I would sleep a little bit in the afternoon or the evening, and then I'd get up around 9:30 at night to go do the same thing over and over. That's how much I was committed to like this voiceover thing has to work. And then the last regular job I had was as a sound designer for a video game studio, which I loved. It was the
That
only
sounds
job
cool.
that I
Yep.
had. Yeah, it was the only job that I had that I truly loved going to work. I loved everything about it. I loved my boss, my coworkers. I loved the work I got to do. We had an in-house recording booth, right, for the voice actors for video games. So my boss told me like, hey, if you want to do auditions and stuff after hours, or as long as it's not impeding your work, go for it. So it was an awesome setup. One Friday going to work on payday, and like a little over 100 out of only, I think it was like 140, 150 people total in the company, and over 100 of us got laid off. Just one day you go in, no job. And that was my catalyst. That was in the spring of 2010. My oldest son was 6 months old, and my wife and my son were on my insurance. And it's like, okay, that's gone. So I told my wife, give me 60 days to try to make this side gig my main gig. And I've been doing it for 5 years on the side. And she said, all right, cool. You got 2 months. And I haven't looked back since. And I gave that 2 months 13 to 16-hour days in front of my computer, marketing myself, promoting myself, working on my craft, practicing, saving up money or using credit to pay for coaching and going to conferences and stuff that I couldn't afford. But it was all because from that moment of getting that $100 check, there was no other option for me in my head. This had to be it. I could not be happy if this wasn't the end goal. And thankfully, it worked out. I put the work in and was patient with it. And yeah, that's kind of how I filled in the blanks a little bit there for you from
Yeah,
from
no, that's
'05
awesome.
to 2010 when I started doing this full time.
And 60 days turned into 15 years. So,
Yeah, man,
yeah,
it's
that's
been
pretty
wild.
cool.
And then to think, this year makes 20 years
Yeah.
since that first $100 check, which is kind of crazy. I'm like, I'm not old enough to have been doing this 20 years. What are you talking about? But
Hmm.
yeah, it's '05 to 25, and it's kind of surreal to believe that I've been in the game this long.
Well, there's so many amazing pieces of advice that are really we should unpack. But the people who are thinking about getting into this industry, and I've said this a lot of times on the podcast and on social media, is that it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not. Don't believe all that stuff you hear on
I'm
social
still not
media.
rich.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. You have to love it. You have to
Yeah,
love
yeah,
it because you got to love the work because it is a lot of work. And there's another guest that I had on, Maria Pendolino. She's like, you got it. You make it work. She said, I don't care. If you're driving Uber, if you're doing DoorDash, if you're working, like you just said, you're working night shifts. If you love it, you make it work. So
yeah,
that's lesson number one. That if you think that this is going to instantly become your full time job, yeah. Are there some people that get started and have success really quickly? Sure, of course they are. But the vast majority of people have had to put in so much work that you never see to get to the point where they're able to go full time. And
absolutely.
we have some commonality in terms of our timeline because it was around 2005 that I started to initially explore the world of voiceover. So I guess I'm hitting the 20-year mark as well. So that's pretty, I didn't even think about that, but that's,
Yeah, you're welcome.
time goes by. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Donovan. Making us both feel old.
Yeah,
But the other cool thing is that similarly, and I've talked about this before, is that the voiceover world gives you the opportunity to, you can take it wherever you want to go with it. Some people, they only want to do it as a side hustle, as a part-time gig.
right,
Other people, need to or want to move into it on a full-time basis. And I did it I sold my brick and mortar business and went full-time about 7 years ago. So between the 2005 and 2018, I was growing the business while running another business. And,
right.
and similarly, once I discovered it in 2005, I knew that I wanted to do it and I didn't know if I could do it full-time, but I knew, man, if I can ever do this full-time, this is what I want to do.
Yeah,
And it's almost like Peter O'Connell says, it's like you need it like you need to breathe. And it almost has to be that intense for you to be able to do the work that you have to do to make it happen.
absolutely.
I remember I do a lot of audiobook work, and I remember when I was at the pharmacy that I owned, and my wife called me up and she's like, I think you might have gotten your first audiobook. And I'm like, wait, what? And I ran back and I checked my
Yeah,
email and I did. I got offered a book. And and I couldn't believe how emotional I felt, like how excited I was. And
yeah,
I hadn't been excited about that something like that business related
right.
in a long time. And that really stuck with me. I'm like, just like you said, when you have that feeling inside of you that you can't necessarily define, but you know that it's pulling you in a particular direction and you just got to go.
Yeah,
And don't stop listening to that voice. Don't let the world crush that from you because, yeah, it's a lot of work, but man, if you love it, you're going to do the work.
yeah. And look, that's 100% true. I mean, even to the point of that excitement level, I could not believe that someone was willing to pay me to talk. You know what I mean? Like for my
Yeah.
voice. Are you kidding me? And at that time, I still didn't have like any sort of home studio. I had to use the radio station's production booth. So I recorded on an RE20, the kind of standard radio station microphone. That's what I recorded this video game on. And yeah, like I said, and I took like literally I did a whole photo shoot. I put on sunglasses, I changed my clothes, and I mean, I'm doing like, wow, you know, this whole thing with it, posing with this check, and I just knew I needed more of that, and there was just no other option. And I was also, I feel it's important to say, I was really blessed in that I had a partner that was really supportive of that, right?
Mhm.
Because I did have some family, some friends, like, yeah, but don't you want to have a real job, as a backup? And I said, well, this everything I'm doing now is to work towards this being my real job.
Right.
And even when I was doing it full time, and even though people would say, like, "Oh, wait, I saw you on that. Was that you on this? Did I hear you on that? Oh, that's cool. Your little voice thing is working out, right?" And yeah, but I mean, is it sustainable? Can you really do it? I said, well, that's up to me. And since I love this more than anything else I've ever done, then yeah, I'm going to be doing this and it's going to be sustainable because I say so. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to stop until that's the case. Um, so it really became a thing of like hearing little comments here and there about, planting seeds of doubt, or I mean, that's
Mhm.
cool as a thing, yeah, but I mean, like, you can't really do this as a job, can you? Like, yeah. Maybe not yet, but yeah, eventually. And then those same people eventually, oh my gosh, you're the voice of this. That's so cool. Like, man, I heard you on this. I tell all my friends I know that guy. So it's like you see this switch where it's almost like you have to believe in yourself and your ability way before you can expect anyone else to. And so, yeah, I had a bunch of stuff that I would have never, even though it wasn't any social media when I started, but that I would have never posted because it was just getting the experience, getting a check, a $30 check here, there, $20, $50, like, okay. And then eventually you get to a point where like something where friends and family can recognize or something that's nationwide. And then it becomes real. Oh, wow, man, so that must be pretty, that must have paid pretty well. I did all right, I did okay with it, more than I ever made in a regular job, but yeah, no, it's okay. And so, yeah, you're 100% right. You can't listen to the doubt and stuff out there, the naysayers. And you truly have to be in it because you don't see any other option for yourself. And not that like, oh, I can't do anything else. It's I don't want to do anything else. Like this has to be the answer for me.
There's a somebody had told me this at once that you act differently when your want becomes your must.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty powerful because, we might want to do something, but when it all of a sudden becomes, all right, I got 60 days to make this work,
Yeah.
it kicks it into a different notch for you. I remember
Absolutely.
the first gig I ever got, the first paid gig I ever got, this I had been involved in politics, so I'd served as on my city council. I'd been the finance commissioner, and I served as mayor as well. And after I got out of politics, I was at a fundraiser or some kind of an event, and the guy walks up to me and he's like, "Hey, I was the head of media for your first mayoral campaign." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And then we never met because I didn't need to meet him. He was just creating
Right.
commercials and introduced himself. And I had created my voiceover cards at that point, and back when we had business cards and, like you said, CDs. And
Yeah.
I gave him my card. I see, he goes, "What are you doing? You're not doing politics anymore." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing voiceover." I was uncomfortable saying it, but I said it anyway. He goes, "Well, give me your card. I might have a job for you," because he did that kind of work. I remember him calling me at the pharmacy, and he's like, "Hey, Mike, can you do a hard read?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do a hard read." And he goes, "All right, I need you to come to the studio," because back then you went to the studio. And I went down to the studio, and he goes, "I'll have a script for you. I'll send it over. It's like $200, but it'll be a commercial." And I'm like, "Okay." So I remember hanging up the phone and thinking to myself, what the heck is a hard read?
Yeah. Like,
So
I have no idea what he's talking about.
I said, the answer is yes. What's the question? So I
Right.
said, I just said, sure, I could do that. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. So it ended up being a local car commercial. So it needed to be kind of
Yeah.
really high
Yeah.
energy,
The hard sell. Yeah.
the hard sell. And that was my first gig. And I don't think any of us will ever forget our first paid
Oh
gig. So
yeah.
I can
No, you
relate to
never
that
forget your
for sure.
first.
Um, so and the transition over, when you're trying to transition over and you're trying to tell people about it, I would say I think there's three way we define ourselves. There's the person that we think we are, there's the person that other people think we are, and then there's the person that we think other people think we are. And we
Right.
usually hang out at number three. We're trying to sort of
Right.
be the person we think everybody else thinks we are. It's kind of hard to move into that number one and go, no, this is who I think I am. And if you don't like
Right.
it, that's on you. I'm going to do this. And I had a lot of people that told me, like, what are you going to do? You're really going to sell the pharmacy and you're going to do this full time? And I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And I built my client base up to the point where I was ready. And like you said, my wife was there and she said, if you want to do it, let's do it. So, and it's been wonderful ever since. So for
Yeah. No,
you,
that's
enough,
good.
enough about me. Let's talk about you. So the transition over. So now you're doing this full time, start getting some gigs. And we kind of jumped over in the intro to, yeah, the voice of the Today Show. So,
Yeah.
how do we get from
It's a
point
big
A to
jump.
point B?
Yeah.
Because and you'll need to fill in the blanks for me to tell people some of the work that you've done, because you are doing promo, radio imaging, commercial work, video games. You're doing a lot of stuff at a very high level. So people need to understand that, Donovan is doing stuff at the highest level that you can do in our industry in the work that he's doing. So getting from that point where you got that first check for $100 to what you're doing now, what was that part of your journey like, and how did that all take place?
Good question. So it was all a product of preparation and like intentionality and patience. Um, just to kind of use, so right now, my main kind of avenue is promo. That's what I do more than anything now, which is kind of cool to be in that space at such a high level, like you said, and just that much work. Because I mean, I want to say right now I might be on something like 13 networks at the same time, somewhere around there. My previous record was 11, and I think now I'm at 13. But which
That's
is
pretty
really
good. That's a
cool.
pretty good number. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But anyway, so I kind of found out once I got into the VO thing, right? And I was making a little money, and I said, okay, how can I get more of this? Not the money, but more of the work. Like, how can I just immerse myself in this? How do I know if I want to do what are the other avenues here, right? Because there are things that I think the average person doesn't really think about until you tell them, like, talking toys, or the voice you hear in on a bus or in the subway or whatever. Like, they're just these floating voices around us everywhere, and like that someone got paid for that. That was someone's job, And so I wanted to see, like, well, what else is there? Because I got, all right, commercial and video games were my first kind of thing. And I said, okay, what's this promo thing? That seems really cool. And I found out what it was. And I said, okay, I want more. I want some of that. So I started training with Nancy Wolfson. She was my first voiceover coach. Could not afford her at the time, but we made it happen. And I learned really early on that I was probably going to have more success through networking than I was through auditioning. All right. And not just because I wasn't good at auditioning, just I'd rather not play the cattle call numbers game if I can avoid it. Right. If I can have that direct in. And so I started to attend events where I would be able to have those networking opportunities and be in contact with people that may hire someone like me. And so, to just, instead of trying to tackle everything for your question, we'll tackle today's show, because that seems to, most people want to know about that one, because kind of nice on the resume.
Relatively well known. Yeah. Yeah.
Relatively well known. And so, at a conference, that's voiceover with Joan and Rudy's thing. I believe it was their first one. If it wasn't, it might have been their second one, but it was in New York. And they had what's called the audition spotlight, and where you can, it's kind of like a American Idol type thing, but for voiceover. And the prize, if you win, is, I think at that time you got like a month trial membership at an agency, representation. You got to do an actual real promo for an affiliate. You won a TLM 103 microphone and some other stuff. And I was like, man, all right, I hope I get chosen for this,
Sounds
because
good.
this is probably around 2010 ish, somewhere in that range. And so anyway, I ended up going to the conference. Um, and a lot happened at that conference. It was a kind of groundbreaking for me. But again, I could not afford anything past like the actual fee to get there and to be the registration fee. I stayed with my dad, who lived in Brooklyn at the time, and had to ride the train into Manhattan. And that was it. Like, I couldn't afford any of the extras. And I made it to the final round of the audition spotlight. But that had been a result of, I mean, like painstakingly practicing, trying to recreate, instead of mimicking, I wanted to recreate what I heard on TV all the time. Because I started just eat, sleep, breathe, voiceover, TV, all of this stuff, commercials. And so I used that to kind of go through this audition spotlight. When I made it to the final 6, I believe it's like 5 or 6, you actually read on stage in front of the entire place, and there's 3 judges. And at that time, the 3 judges were a producer, promo producer from ABC Family, a big time talent agent, used to be Don LaFontaine's agent, and a producer from NBC News. All right. So I get up there, do it. It actually came up to a runoff between me and another talent. The other talent ended up winning. Right. So essentially, I came in second place, first loser. And I said, okay, while I was up there, though, as soon as I saw the judges sitting there to my right, I said, I don't care what happens to this. I'm going to meet those judges, because each of them can help me get more work. Right. So I didn't even care about the outcome anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would have loved to have won, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I have to.
Yeah. You knew long-term meeting them was the most important thing. Yeah.
Win or lose, whatever. And so the first 2 people really didn't care to give me the time of day, and whatever, it's all good. But the producer from NBC News very friendly, very supportive, very helpful, explained to me why they chose the other person instead of me. And it was very close and the whole thing. And we stayed in touch over the years. And when I would go into New York to visit my dad, I would call them up and say, "Hey, I'm in town. Would you like to grab coffee?" And that's what we would do. We get coffee, we talk about family, kids, the whole thing. They ended up showing me
But at
around.
this point, they hadn't hired you yet. At
No, they
this
didn't
point,
hire me at all. They did maybe two different ISDN tests because I had an ISDN line in my house. Um, talk about, and I got that in 2007. I got the line installed in my house. Anyway, but yeah, we did a couple of ISDN tests, sent me scripts. Yeah, not ready yet, is what she told me. Like, good, but you're not ready yet. Okay, fine. But still kept in touch, kept in touch, kept in touch. And when I say keep in touch, I don't mean like, oh, the spreadsheet says I need to check in for my monthly, how is the family? Like, I genuinely wanted to have a connection with this person. And I actually cared what was going on with the family, and they cared about what was going on with me. A genuine
an
relationship.
authentic
Yeah,
relationship. Yeah.
authentic. And so fast forward to 2019. So you're talking 9 years later after initially meeting this person. My agent says, "Hey, today's show wants to have you read for this promo." Now, by this time, I had already done a few promos for other networks and all of this stuff. And the story of how I got my first promo is actually pretty cool too, but we'll stay on task. I'd already done a few promos, and they said, "All right, we want you to do this." And I'm thinking it's an audition because, I had done all these reads. And no, it was no, they want you for this. And it was Steph Curry. I'll never forget it. It's Steph Curry was the guest on Today's Show, and they wanted me to do the read for it. And the read went well. And then they had me do the read for Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. And I was like, wait a minute here. Okay. Whatever. I'll take the checks. But man, can I do more than just like NBA players? All right, cool. I did a tribute to Whitney Houston campaign. I did a couple of like summer concert things. And I said, oh my goodness, I'm in. Like I
Right.
am in. And then crickets. Nothing. Didn't hear from them again. Even after my, hey, just check it in. What's going on?
Whoa. So wait a minute. Well, the doing the promos for the NBA players. What time frame was this over? Months? Over?
Yeah, this was over the course of maybe 3 months, maybe.
Okay, so 3 months. You're
Three,
kind of getting consistent work from
yeah,
them, and
three
all of a
months. I
sudden,
probably
boom,
did like
crickets.
let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5, maybe 7 promos. And for today's show in the span of about 3 to 4, that's about 4 months. And I'm thinking like, oh, I'm golden. Like I'm in. And then nothing. I said, all right, well, it was a good run. It was fun. I can put it on my resume. All good. And then, oddly enough, COVID hits, obviously, March 2020. And at the same time, because of how everybody was scrambling for information and people doing things a certain way, Today's Show decides to rebrand. And my agent says, hey, Today's Show wants you for their coronavirus coverage. I said, okay. Like, all right, now this is like serious. This isn't like some basketball player or some entertainment thing. Like, this is a real news thing. And I did that promo and I've been doing them since. And so that's how I started as the voice of Today's Show was 9 years of cultivating a relationship with authentic intentions along the way, practicing my craft. And I wanted it to get to a point that whenever my opportunity came, I was ready to go. Like I didn't want when I got the call or the email, okay, now I should spend the resources and the time. Like, no, that's too late. If I wanted to do promo, I needed to know promo. I had to be good at promo already for when it for when the opportunity came. And that's what happened with Today's Show. So it really came from technically I didn't audition for it, although I kind of did. And it's funny, I asked this person later, I went back up after I had worked with them for about a year or so and I was in New York again. And I said, hey, I just wanted to like, what made you choose me like for the brand? I mean, this is the brand. They associate this voice with this institution of morning news. Like there's only three really, and only two
Mm-hmm.
big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Good Morning America and Today Show, like the two institutions. And they basically said, you know what? You were ready. We had tested you out. We loved your sound. We loved what you were doing, but you just didn't have it where we could just call on you and you immediately knew what you needed to do, get in, get out, and we knew it was going to be great. And I said, okay, but how did you know that without working with me? You know what I mean? Like, how did you know
Sure.
that?
Yeah.
Your behind the scenes post you posted on social media. We saw the work you were doing, and we're like, okay, this guy is consistently good. He's consistently like talking to me, and then he's in character, and then he's talking. So they saw the transitions I was capable of talking like this. And then all of a sudden, only on today, right? It was this thing where they could see this. It wasn't like, okay, now take 5. Now I'm good. It was an immediate shift. And so seeing what I was able to do online made them give me a shot. And then those individual ones that I did do the previous year kind of proved it. But then it was like, well, we didn't really have anything for you because we already had a voice, right? But when they decided to do a full rebrand, they were like, we really had no other option. Like, we didn't consider anybody else. It was always going to be you whenever we made the change because of how great you were to work with, how prepared you were, how ready you were, how dedicated you were to being excellent from the beginning. That, yeah, once we did it, we did a meeting. I submitted you, and then the other people listened to your previous work, and they were like, it was unanimous. Yeah, he's our guy. So, all that to say, be ready. Always be ready. And if you know what you want to do, that should be the thing that you give the bulk of your attention to. And I mean, like, the time to research, the time to practice, the time to get coaching, and all of that stuff. So anyway, that's just one thing. That's one gig that I have, and that's how I got today's show. And now it'll be 5 years in March.
That's amazing. And it's that what Oprah says, right? Luck is preparation meeting opportunity. You were preparing yourself
It
to
is.
meet
I
to
have
get
this
the
on my
opportunity.
desk. I don't know if it'll show up. Success occurs when opportunity meets preparation.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
it's funny you said that because I have it right here on my desk.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. That's literally, so don't wait to prepare yourself. If you want to do that, then start preparing yourself ahead of time so that you're ready. And then I love the making authentic connections because again, man, that's literally what it's all about. Almost all the work that I've ever gotten in this industry has been from knowing somebody or being referred from somebody or meeting somebody at a conference, making those connections, not being spammy, not being in your face, just authentic connections. And
Yeah.
that makes all the difference in the world. And preparation is so important to figure out what it is you want to do and then prepare yourself ahead of time because like you said, if it's something you really want to do, then learn as much as you can about it. Prepare yourself for those
Yeah.
opportunities because
Absolutely.
man, when they come, if you don't take advantage of them when they come, then they're going to go pick somebody else. And then also the social media aspect, I talked about how that's how I found you was on social media.
Yeah.
That's where you showed up on my feed and I'm like, "Man, you were doing those behind the scenes thing." And I'm like, I will tell you that I thought the same thing. I was like, you would do your, hey, let me take you behind the scenes of doing whatever the promo is. You take your deep breath and you'd read, and
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you'd play the spot, and the spot sounded literally almost identical to what you did just
Right.
off the cuff live, in front of a camera for the social media audience. So that I remember thinking, man, he's very consistent, and now you're telling me that these executives like, we like the fact that you were that consistent, and there you go. So
Yeah, look, just to give another quick thing, like so recently I did start as the voice of Fox 11 Plus in
I
Los
saw that. I
Angeles.
saw you post that. Yeah.
Which is
Congratulations.
huge because I thank you so much because I do a lot of affiliate work and to be in a top market like that, well, second market is huge for us. And again, the person who's the creative director at that station, I had lunch with at a conference probably 12 years ago, something like
Wow.
that. And over the year, we never worked together, but we stayed in touch on LinkedIn. They would like my videos every now and then, and they see stuff. And they ended up taking over this station, got the promotion, became the creative director. And they said, all right, we're going to need a new voice. And he's like, I was really stressed about it. And he said, I was actually rage scrolling on social media. And one of your videos came up. I was like, damn, this guy's good. And then, like, remember, like, oh, yeah, I forgot about him. And then tapped on my page. And then He said, man, I went through about like 9 or 10 of your videos. And I said, all right, I don't have to, we got our guy. And same thing, presented in the meeting, pulled up my my Instagram and showed his team. And they're like, we're on board, let's do it. And so
Right.
it was kind of like, I did have to audition for it, but it was one of those like, don't suck and it's yours. You know what I mean? Like prove you can do this. Because we're not really, going to consider a bunch of people for this. So like if you can do what you seem like you can do, it's yours. And that's how that happened. Again, years of just, cultivating relationships and realizing people like to work with who they like. And at the end of the day, with all the scares of AI and all of these things coming into play, the end decision is a human, and they're going to want to work with a human that's going to help them, right? Um, so anyway, so that's just another quick anecdote about build those relationships. But when that relationship does come to fruition, you better be ready to perform. Because I like when I speak at conferences or I'll coach people at like workshops. I say, raise your hands. How many of you guys in here would love to have my Today Show gig? And they right all go up. I said, exactly. That's why I have to stay on top of my game. Because at one point I was in your seat saying, oh my goodness, one day. Like I remember I met Joe Cipriano at that first conference and I couldn't afford the book he was signing. So I just took a picture with him. Maybe some mojo would rub off of me or something, right? And like Joe Cipriano and I are friends now. And he asked me to be a part of his Lifetime Achievement Award tribute video, like personally invited me to be a part of that. And Joe Cip to me is like on the Mount Rushmore of voiceover in like ever to me anyway. And so to call someone like that a friend is huge for me because I remember being just that bright-eyed, hopeful, sitting, waiting in line to talk to somebody to give me some advice, to help me out. And now I go to conferences and people wait to talk to me, and it's kind of like,
Kind of surreal.
it,
Yeah.
it all, yeah, it doesn't seem real. And I try to be as helpful and open with as many people as I can because I know what it's like when you're just like, somebody help me, somebody. So anyway, all that to say, I'm really honored to be in the position I'm in, but it didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen easily, and it didn't happen by mistake. I put in a lot of work and I built a lot of relationships because this is what I wanted. So I did almost every move that I've ever made since 2000, excuse me, since 2004, 2005. There was like a method to the madness. There was a purpose behind every decision I made, everything I went to, every person I talked to, every piece of information I absorbed was with this as part of the journey.
Yeah. And there's a level of determination coupled with the curiosity, coupled with the work ethic and the willingness to put yourself through what you need to put yourself through to get better at what it is you want to do. That's a rare combination. And almost everybody that reaches the highest level of whatever it is that they're doing, they have that combination. So,
Yeah.
congratulations to you for being
Thank you. I
able to put that
appreciate
all
that.
together. Um, I want to divert a little bit to I know that I can't tell if that's the hat you're wearing, but I know that you do have yeah, there it is. You do
VO
have
life,
a an apparel
baby.
line that you are wearing all the time. No, but but tell
I
us about
sleep
that.
in it. No.
What was that? How did that come about? When did that start? And how's that going?
Yeah, so that was an idea I had a long time ago. Actually, back in 2010, around that time, I had the idea of putting VO related stuff on t-shirts. Like that was the extent of it because there was nothing I didn't have the resources or any, it was just like, one day. And then 2018 was when I started the company. I came up with the hashtag VO Life because honestly, there were a lot of things on social media. People were posting about like mom life or yoga life and all this stuff. And it really came, I realized that there, at that time, there wasn't anything that I found. And I did a lot of research. I didn't find anything that was like a brand identity for what we do. Right. And I mean, you had stuff for nurses, you had stuff for, mechanics, you had stuff for musicians, but there was nothing for what we do. Um, and the other side of it was I I don't suffer from this. I'm pretty extroverted, but a lot of us in our industry are introverts. Like we're used to being in a padded room talking to ourselves, and a lot of us like it that way, right? It's so funny going to conferences and you see folks just kind of like wow, so many people. Like I'm supposed to actually talk to other people.
Overwhelmed.
Like
Yeah.
if you give me
Yeah.
a microphone and a script, I can talk. But anyway, um, I wanted to have something that could be an icebreaker that could help someone initiate a conversation or help a conversation be started around what we do, right? So I came up with the hashtag VO Life because I had used it on a bunch of my posts, and it was only maybe one or two people using it when I started using it, even before 2018, obviously. Um, and so I said, all right, I want this to be the design. I wanted it to be bold, the red, the white, and all of the designs I came up with, like literally on this like 12-year-old version of Photoshop because I refused to pay for a version of it when I was just messing around. And it kind of took off, right? It kind of grew from there, from just shirts to like hats and water bottles and stuff of that nature. I have a rug in front of my booth with the logo on it. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it came to be. And it was really well received. A lot of folks really believed in it and were happy. And they would say things like, yeah, I went to this marketing event to network and I had on my, because one of the more popular shirts is where it has the definition of voiceover on it. And people are like, hey, what's that? What's that on your shirt? Oh, this is this is voiceover. Oh, so what's that about? And then boom, now you have an in, you have an icebreaker. And it wasn't you with your business card saying, hey, I do voiceover. I do voiceover. Hey, hire me. I do. It was their idea to initiate what you do for a living rather than you trying to sell it to them. Now it just became part of the conversation that they initiated. So that was the other intent behind the brand, was like I wanted there to be a vehicle for people to say, what's VO Life? What does that mean? Oh, it's for boom. And now you can start your pitch and then, oh wow. So what have I heard you on? Or what have I now you've got a dialogue started and it can help initiate someone else's um relationship that they can cultivate and maybe lead to work down the line. So that was the start of it. And yeah, so that's where VO Life clothing came from.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we'll get the website and all that info at the end of the show so people can go look at your merchandise and
Yeah,
get some
yeah.
of that. Um, what's going on for 2025? Like, what are you looking forward to in 2025?
Wow. So 2025, I look to expand more into the affiliate market. I love affiliates because it's retainer, and that's really great when you are a freelancer for a living. You don't have to hustle for every single check.
Right. No, nice to know
Plus,
that
it's
check's coming in. Yep.
yeah, it's really nice, at least for the length of your contract, right? You hope they renew, but you until that time, you got something coming. So I want to expand more into that. I have 8 retainer clients now, I believe, which is really nice. I would love to expand that more. And I want to find more ways to help pour into others. I did an Instagram post, a video about 3 things I wanted to leave in 2024, 3 things I wanted to bring into 25. And one of the 3 things was I wanted to pour more into others, but with the stipulation that it has to be people that are, willing to actually receive it and do something with it. I'm sure you get just as many how do I get into voiceover, emails and DMs and stuff as anyone else does. But I started to realize really early on that the vast, vast majority of the advice I gave was never followed. And then they come to me like, oh, I guess you didn't want to tell me how to really do it. You're scared of the competition. Like, first of all, I guarantee you I'm not. Second of all, like, well, did you do anything I said? Well, no, because it seemed like, okay, like you're just trying to get me to spend money. It's like, yeah, but you're not spending it with me. Like, what is that? Doesn't benefit me any. I mean, I do coach now. I mean, and I've been coaching since 2020. And yeah, you can pay me for that. But like, this wasn't even about that. This was just me giving you advice. Um, so I want to be more intentional about pouring into other people who have the same dream that I had and that I continue to have because it's still my dream job. And yeah, I just want to expand my brand. You know what I mean? Like more into other networks, other kinds of promo work. I have done quite a few video games, but I haven't done one in a while. So I'd like to get back into that realm. Um, and I would like to crack the shell on something I've never been able to get. I've auditioned a bunch, I've had callbacks, but I've never done anything in animation. And so I would love for that to be part of my 2025 story. So there's already some things I've kind of put in motion to try and be intentional about putting myself in the right place with the right people to make that happen. So yeah, that would be the gist of it. And just, you know what? I just want to continue to be happy and live my life in a way that makes my family proud. You
Hmm.
know, I am honored and I feel very privileged that I can support my family with doing something that is very, it's a job, don't get me wrong. But it's like, man, this is one hell of a job. Like this
It's
is
a great
pretty
job.
damn cool.
Yeah.
It's a great career. And I just want to continue to live in that mindset. And you know, I never want to get to the point where I think I'm bigger than what I am, and at the end of the day, I'll tell anybody, I'm just a guy. Like I'm just a dude who had some opportunities and I worked my butt off to make the most of those opportunities. I'm no better than anyone else at all. I'm literally just a guy. Um, but I'm a very hard worker and I'm a very dedicated worker and I'm a patient person and a dedicated person, all that good stuff. Um, so yeah, and I want to continue to live that way. I don't want me being the voice of today to make me feel like I'm, you know, bigger than anyone else that has the same abilities that I do.
Yeah, and keep having more of those amazing moments. I think that's always something that I always long for. Is that when I got my first audiobook with, a union house and who I've been working with now for almost 8 years, and that day I remember going out into the car. I had to go somewhere, and I remember getting in the car and just went like, "Whoa," like just scream,
Yeah.
like so happy, and I felt that joy, and then you get those along the way, and those are just amazing moments that you long to get more of because if you love what you
Yeah.
do, when you get those opportunities, you're just it just gets you, it fills you with that pride
Look,
and
I
joy
still
and
yell at the
happiness.
TV. Oh, that's me. When a Today
Yeah,
Show promo or MTV promo or whatever comes up, I'm like, oh, hey, nice. Right. It doesn't get old. Like I still get chills. I still have like a crazy silly grin on my face and like my sons will high five like dad that's so cool, right? So yeah, I that part I never want to get used to that. I never want to take any of that for granted.
I don't blame you. And thinking about the family piece, the I remember when I was in my other careers, the my kids, your kids know more than we realize that they know, and they
Mm-hmm.
hear and see more than we think they hear and see. And I remember, but we have four children, and pretty much all of them think it's pretty cool what I do. And but my son and my daughter both have said on numerous occasions since I moved into the VO full time that they're like, well, I want to be able to do what dad does. Not in the sense that I want to go be a voice actor. I want to do something where like dad like loves his job. Like he gets up in the morning and he goes
That's
to
huge.
work. He's so happy. Like I want to find that. I want to find that. So for me to be a role model to my kids for
Oh
doing
yeah, you
that
can't
is
beat it.
exactly what you're doing when your kids see that commercial or that promo and they're proud of you.
Oh
That's
yeah,
that's one of the greatest feelings you can have as a parent is to be able to be
absolutely.
that for your children and you're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the kind of the last little piece I'll say about it is like when I do career days,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and now that my boys are in high school and in middle school, but even when they're elementary and up, um, sometimes kids, especially as they get into the teen years or close to it, it's like, oh, dad, like, oh, like, they're embarrassed. They don't want
You're
to
not
hug you
cool. You're not
anymore
cool
in
enough.
front of
Yeah.
people and, stuff like that. Yeah, yeah, I'm not cool. I've never stopped being cool to my sons, and which is I really like that. And when I would go into the classrooms, and you get these kids that have heard from whoever, like this parade of moms and dads and uncles and whoever does whatever. And no disrespect to their professions, but they're like, all right, so like, what does this guy do? And then I pull up my website, and then I tell a voiceover, and a couple of like, oh, okay, I've heard of that. All right, cool. Oh, so does that mean like you do SpongeBob? I'm like, no, I don't do SpongeBob, but you're in the right path here. And then I
Yeah.
play things that I've done. Oh, I've
Yeah.
seen that. And I did like I did two different commercial campaigns for Madden games, and just like blew their mind. I'd done stuff for Cartoon Network and for Nickelodeon. And I mean, they were just like, yeah. And so they go to like my son, like, did you like, why
Yeah.
did you tell me your
You're like
dad
the
was so awesome?
coolest dad. You're like the coolest
Yeah.
dad
And so
in the
like
world.
now he's getting like props from them because
Yeah.
his dad does something cool. Like, oh man, do you do it too? And have you done this? And so that part is always feels incredible when you can get like 12 to 14-year-olds or even 10 to 14-year-olds to actually pay attention and think you're cool.
Yeah. That's
Like
an accomplishment. Yeah.
little notch in the cap there, you know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, that's one of the many rewards of this life that I choose to continue to put myself in, where and look, I don't try to sugarcoat it or make it seem all rosy, right? We here know more than almost any other profession, right?
Sure do. Yeah.
We get rejected more than we get selected. Um, and we have to be okay with realizing whether or not we get paid is based on someone else's arbitrary opinion of us, because we can't hire ourselves. So if you can deal with that part of it, knowing that, yeah, they're going to judge you, they're going to say, yeah, I don't like him. And you're going to say, all right, cool. Then I guess it wasn't for me. And you go on to the next thing. Um, Rejection and all of that stuff, you got to deal with that part of it too. And realizing that as much as you coach, as much as you train, as much as you practice, you're not in control once you send that email off with the MP3 file attached. Right. And so what I've done in my career is try to put as little weight as possible on that not meaningless, but like that nebulous MP3 that's one of however many these people are going to hear today, tomorrow, this week, this month, next month, right? I want you to work with Donovan. I want you to know who Donovan is. I want you to know what I'm about. I want you to know what I'm capable of, which is the reason for the behind the scenes videos and all that stuff, and the occasional just random silly stuff to show like I'm not just a voiceover guy, like um and so that's kind of what I want my legacy to be, and what stays after I'm gone is like, man, this guy worked hard, he did a lot of really cool stuff, and he helped a lot of other people help realize their dreams. And if I can do that and then still like the same thing you talked about with your kids of like you can achieve a pretty nice living doing something you love, then I mean, what more can you ask for?
Yeah. I mean, it's really one of the greatest gifts you can give your children is to give them that example
Mm-hmm.
as to how you should try to approach your life and your work life. And yeah, it's pretty powerful when you can get to that point. So and you are achieving that. So again, credit to you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You got it. And before I ask you where people can find you, do you have, if you had to, distill it down to one single piece of advice, which I know you've given a ton of advice over the course of this hour, but if there was one little golden nugget that somebody could take away that was an aspiring voice actor, what do you think that would be?
Yeah, and I was thinking about it when you asked me about it, and I've kind of given tidbits of it along this conversation, but it really narrows down to like do the work and be patient. Um, we, especially for younger folks looking to get into this, we are living in the Amazon lifestyle, right? Where we can get things like I literally 2 days ago I ordered something and I got it at like 3 in the morning the very next day. Like it's absurd. I don't even understand how that works, but
I never
we are
have been able
we've
to figure that
become
out either. Yeah. How
yeah,
does that
but
happen?
we've become accustomed to this, right? We put it on an app, we tap some buttons, and a pizza shows up, or a TV could show up, or a new pair of shoes, or what. Like it just things just happen very quickly now. And if you think about it, if you turned on your computer and it loaded like it used to for Windows 95, you'd be ready to throw your computer through the window. But whereas a few years ago, that was the standard. But now if something doesn't boot up immediately, we're like, oh, come on, right? That's not going to apply to this voiceover thing. It just isn't. Be patient and trust in the work that you're putting in, right? You have to do the work that's like commiserate with how badly you want it, right? And I get asked all the time, how much should I practice? Well, how bad do you want it? Because I guarantee you there's someone that's got a deeper voice than you, or a better microphone than you, or more money than you, or more experience than you, or more. But no one should ever work harder than you. No one should ever want it more than you. That you're in control of. You can't control that someone else was born with this, or their uncle is the executive producer of something, so they're going to get an opportunity. You never. All right, fine. But for the stuff I can control, I'm going to be a great person to work with. I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to have the skill set necessary to perform at a high level. And I'm going to give you what you need when you need it, and you're going to like working with me, so that you might want to work with me again in the future. So I know I probably convoluted that with like 4 or 5 different tips, but
no, that's okay.
Do the work.
Yeah.
Do the work and be patient. Stick with it.
I love it. That's perfect advice. Thank you for that. And where can people find you and also your lifestyle, your brand, apparel brand?
Yeah, so the clothing brand is volifeclothing.com, VO Life Clothing. And then on social media for almost everything, it's Donovan_VO. That's like Instagram and like TikTok and all that stuff. It's Donovan_VO, DonovanVO.com for the website. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I tried to make it as easy as possible for folks to find me,
that's a good thing.
Connect with me. Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
Well, everybody, check out Donovan, check out his website, check out his social media. You're going to love those videos. And
thank you.
And yeah, absolutely. And I just really want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey with my listeners. I know I got a ton out of it, and I know they're going to get a ton out of it as well. So, Donovan, I want to wish you continued success on your journey.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Hopefully I didn't just blather on too much about it, but look, we get paid to talk. So
that's right. That's our job.
Get me started, man. It's hard to stop, but no, thank you so much. It means a lot to be in a position where folks want to talk to you, right? Because that wasn't always the case. So I don't take that part of it lightly either. So thank you very much for having me on your platform.
Awesome. Thank you, Donovan. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Mike Lenz VO Podcast. Head on over to MikeLenzVOPodcast.com for links and recaps of each show. Catch you next time on the Mike Lenz VO Podcast.